Yo, 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 yo.
Sup, sup, sup.
Sup, peeps. Sup, my peeps.
We back, yo.
We back, yo. Well, why are we talking like this? I have no idea.
As it just feels like it's rolling off the mouth, rolling off the tongue.
Rolling off the mouth or the tongue?
I don't know. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's oral. That's all we need to know.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oral indeed.
Yes. Rachel, how are you?
Welcome, folks. Pardon my mind. Of course, we're not pardoning anything that our mind is coming up with right now. We're just letting it go. Letting it flow.
Yes.
And I'm doing all right. Yeah.
Good.
How are you?
I'm okay. Just rolling with the punches, finishing work, as you will probably just finish work as well.
I did. I was able to go for a walk in between work and recording. So that was lovely.
Oh, great.
Beautiful spring day, getting a dust facial.
Did you see any wild boars or any exotic wildlife in the Okanagan?
Did I see any wildlife? No. Does a flying cigarette butt count as wildlife on the street?
Depends on where it's from.
I wasn't walking in the lovely nature. Well, I mean, everything is nature, I guess. I was walking in man-made. I was going to say man-made nature. That doesn't even make any sense, really, does it?
You're walking in nature.
I was walking in concrete nature, just around town. Just didn't feel like driving to the paths.
Yeah.
Speaking of interrupted you. Yeah. Speaking of paths, speaking of the forest and nature and things that are around the area I live in, today we're actually talking to somebody who lives fairly close to me. Mm-hmm. Just a few hours away in beautiful Nelson, British Columbia.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, and Jeremie, and I don't want to mispronounce his last name because I want to say Jalapeno. But then I want to say jalapeno because I think of jalapeno. Yeah,
I was wondering.
And then I'm thinking, the first question I'm going to have to ask him, is this a stage name or is this a real name? It's a pretty cool name.
It's a very cool name.
Regardless, right?
Yeah, and also the question begs, is it Jeremie Jalapeno?
Absolutely. I can't. That's a mouthful. Speaking of mouths.
Yes, indeed. Either way, we love it.
And we probably should explain who is this Jeremie.
Yes.
Jeremie is the creator and the photographer, the creative genius behind Men in Tubs calendar. Just let your mind go wild with that one. Just let it happen. Just let it happen.
Beautiful. What a beautiful
right?
sight. Yes.
I know. So the Men in Tubs calendar, I believe, started, I think his first one was 2020.
Okay.
Which is interesting now that I'm thinking about it, because that was when COVID started. So that's just, I don't know if that
3 years ago
parallels at all, but that's when he started this venture, and it came about really wanting to express and show vulnerability. I guess the softer side or the vulnerability behind predominantly men. Mm-hmm. And to take the words right out of his mouth from his website, just because it's, I just feel like that's the easiest thing to do. Not just the easiest thing, but just kind of to really give it context as to from, what his mission statement truly is, mm-hmm. is to create a world, what I just said, of vulnerability and connection through artistic human experiences. And the biggest donation from the calendar sales, which is, I just forget I just said that, 15% of each calendar sold will be donated to organizations that help with mental health. And the biggest donation of that goes to the Mankind Project, and where he's from, the Nelson Community Services. So,
oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So, really just kind of right down speaking of paths again, along the path of what we talk a lot about in the show, mental health, obviously vulnerability is a huge key player with, what we chat about with our guests and with each other. And what I really want to know is, because I know that, I was doing a little bit of research, but I couldn't quite find, and there he is. Look, I'm looking at my computer and not looking at you. I'm looking at your website, and I didn't even realize you popped on. You were so quiet.
I just got on it right now.
I know. I was just waiting for it at the moment, waiting for it to happen. How are you? Welcome in.
Great to meet you guys. This is awesome.
Yeah, good to meet you.
Yeah, great to meet you too. So nice to have you.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm not wrong. I looked at your name because I just I was like, I know there's a Drainville in there somewhere with his last name. But then when I did some research on you, I couldn't recall that the last name of Drainville. So I couldn't find that anywhere. So I thought I was losing my mind because you go by
Jeremie Jalapeno is like my stage name.
Okay, that's what Rachel
thank
was
you.
wondering.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was like, because I know you're originally from Quebec, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So I was like, is this like a French thing? Like what is this name? But it's not, obviously. And then I was like, it must be a stage name. So
Yeah. Sometimes as a joke, I just say it's my Quebexican name.
okay.
I love
I
that.
like it.
Love that. I wonder how that would translate to a cuisine.
To a which?
To a cuisine.
A cuisine. I thought you were gonna say a queer zine.
Well, I mean,
That too,
it
maybe.
could
Who
be
knows?
anything really, to be perfectly frank. So, but anyway, so welcome to Pardon My Mind. Nice to have you on, Jeremy. I've heard lots of great things about you from Rachel, and yeah, we're really grateful to have you here and to learn about how you got to where you are, what you're doing today, where you want to see yourself going in the future. So,
Yeah. See
Yeah,
where myself
future,
going in
right?
the future is interesting.
usually it
Absolutely.
is.
Yeah. So like I did a very small, mild introduction to yourself just before you popped on. So, basically just talked about all the stuff kind of we see on the surface with the calendar and, some of the stuff that you're up to and the things that I guess brought you to where you are in photography, but didn't really talk much about the mental health piece because I couldn't really find a lot of information about kind of, because you talk about mental health, but as we go into this conversation, I'd love to know, depending on how deep you'd like to go, it's totally up to you with how personal you want to get, but we're all about vulnerability. And that's, I know that quite a key phrase or word in your vocabulary as well, to really know, maybe the exact circumstances that really got you running with the calendar into what you do with photography. So that's a mouthful. How would you introduce yourself to people that you just meet?
I don't necessarily say that I'm a photographer. I just say I shoot photos.
Okay.
It's
And what's the reason behind that? I'm curious.
like it for me, it's just started to like label myself in a certain way and just kind of like put a frame around me. I've never been a big fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought I would ever become a photographer or a guy who shoot photos.
Yeah.
Like when I've been asked when I was younger, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I just never understood it, never had a picture of what that could look like. So for me to strive, I was like, oh, I want to become a firefighter. Like, it's like, there's like, okay, there's something to strive for. For me, I end up going to photo school based on a series of events that led me to ask myself a specific question. And I guess I'm going a bit on a tangent about how I would introduce myself. Yeah, I just yeah, it's interesting. I don't really I meet a lot of people at the work I do in the winter. They don't necessarily ask me what I do because I'm at work when I meet them. So they see what I do, but they ask me often, what do I do in off season? So I have a hard time telling people, like, introducing myself. And I guess a simple and honest way for me to say is just like someone who followed his heart and throughout my life, and at the same time let go of certain things that doesn't serve me and kind of move on and evolve, and I'll continuously make changes in my life, even though it's can be really difficult at times, and not being afraid of letting go of who I was to become someone I don't know who I'm becoming just yet.
Yes.
Yeah, letting go of those expectations, right?
Of how I should live a life, or sometimes based on a lot of fear or
or
like
societal norms or expectations, right? Like
perhaps. And at the same time, and also it's not necessarily just the society that kind of says a certain thing, it's me accepting those things. right?
Mm-hmm.
If I tell you you're stupid, you either can brush it off or you can accept it and define
Mm-hmm.
that for you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
society is just there to have noise, or sometimes it's beautiful noise, and sometimes it's empowering, but it's my responsibility of accepting things the way they are or not.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I fall into the category of holding back because of what people might think or what people might say, or am I allowed to do that? Is that
Right.
okay to live a
Yeah.
life of doing certain things a certain way? And so, yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, and that's what you said about like, it sounds like I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that you kind of had to maybe relearn, because I think it's a lot of us growing up. It's like what you said, people are always asking you as a kid, even, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Mhm.
You know, and you said, one of the things you said was, maybe I'll just say fireman, right? Or maybe that's, you know, you feel like there's a pressure that we have to, you know, know.
Well,
Or
not only
say.
that, it felt to me that the choice was very limited. I was like, well, all the choices that get seen, fireman, police officer, or
Yeah.
whatever, it's like those are not inspiring me. It's like, is there anything else I could pick from? But no one ever shown me that there's
Interesting.
fuck. There's so many people can be so many different things, you know.
Yeah, and in multiple
Absolutely.
times in one lifetime too. Like you don't have to be. We're always reinventing and creating different parts of ourselves every year, every month, every
Which is,
decade.
and I actually find that interesting, because I almost feel like now we live in a day and age where there's almost too much choice, and it's almost too overwhelming. And then we're told, like, you know, I don't know how old you are, but like, I'm kind of on the cusp of that age where it's like, you either pick a path and you choose that path and you go with it, and there's no deviation, right? Like, it's like, that's the thing. But I was also on the cusp of the age where it's like, my parents would tell me, you can do anything you want to do. You put your heart to, like, you know, anything, absolutely anything. You can be good at anything as long as you work hard at it, blah, blah, blah. But that was almost like almost too overwhelming for me. Like, there was almost too much choice, too much, you know, I don't really know what I'm trying to get at there, but it's it almost makes me like, how did you grow up then? Did you hear that as well? Or did you only really hear the kind of
Um,
box, sounds like only the cookie cutter kind of?
no, it like my parents never were like, oh, you need to pick something, you need to find a
Oh, that's
career,
good.
you need to
Yeah.
like do that. And um they never really put any pressure on me to like figure it out right away.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
and I moved out of my parents' place when I was 19 or 20.
Oh yeah.
So basically I finished high school, and I worked for like a year instead of going to like cégep, which is like similar to college in Quebec.
Okay.
So I was working for a year, nights. I was working from midnight to 8 a.m. and I
Okay.
was smoking so much fucking weed back then.
Yeah.
Like it was pretty bad. I was smoking like a quarter ounce every 2 days just for me.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
you were in your own reality, a different reality,
I,
perhaps.
for me, I was just fucking bored.
Okay. Yeah.
Like nothing around me really inspired me. The only person growing up in my high school years that inspired me was another guy from high school that was same age. And I
Mm.
met him later on in high school because he was a really good skateboarder. And not only that, he started his own skateboard company,
Mm.
like making t-shirts and making boards, not making them, but putting his logo on things and then
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
making like a little movie. And I was like, man, that is fucking cool. Like it's like an entrepreneurship, but I didn't know what entrepreneur was at the time. No one ever told me. My
Yeah.
parents, it's not something they just have a job and they do that job. But and that's something that inspired me is oh man, he's doing cool things. Like we were making a skateboard movie premiere in different towns, and I was like spending a lot of time with this guy, and I was like, man, this is really cool. Like he's doing thing his way with things
Yeah.
that interest him.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what entrepreneurship was back then. And there's a part in there that was like really speaking to me without I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. You couldn't label it necessarily. Yeah.
Yeah, no one told me like, yeah, you can start your own business and that kind of stuff, or I never been shown that. But seeing him, he was the only inspiration for me. And because of him, went to we went on a little skateboard trip to this place called Mont Tremblant in Quebec.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
heard
don't
of
know if
it.
you guys are
Yeah.
familiar with that place. So it's
Yeah.
basically the Whistler of Quebec, a big
Yeah.
walking village, ski hill, hotels, bars, restaurant.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this place is cool.
Yeah.
Like people don't drive around in Mont Tremblant, this ski hill. People walk around and it's like walking village. And I was like,
Yeah.
that is different. That is cool. It's more lively. A lot of people on vacation. Like people are more stoked. And I was like,
Yeah.
love this place. And I ended up moving there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
were you outdoorsy at that point, or did that kind of prompt you to be more?
As a kid, I grew up in Gatineau, Quebec, which is like 100,000 plus people. That was before they had a fusion with Hall, Elmer, and adjacent town. Now it's like 300 something plus. But on the other side of the river is Ottawa, which is like 700,000 people.
Yeah.
Really spread out. So it's a big place. But where I grew up in my parents' house, the front, there's no front neighbors.
Oh,
I grew up in town, but the front is like a ravine with trees. And
nice.
I was living in the city, in the town, but I had never had no front neighbors. I've always spent time in the woods in front of my house, like all the time.
Yeah.
I guess moving to Tremblant was like an eye-opening, and like different places, how people live differently, and was much more. It was more quiet to start with.
Yeah.
And the people are very welcoming, and like it's like hospitality. People work in restaurants, or they're very outgoing. Like, hey, how's it going? Like, what's your name? And I really like that vibe of like a ski town.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, this is kind of cool. And I wasn't even snowboarding much back then.
Yeah, that was my other question. Yeah. And so how old were you at that point? You were
I was like 20.
20,
and I moved there. Yeah. And then I was very shy at the time, and also low self-confidence.
Okay.
Like going ask for a job for me was like fucking hard and like difficult, and then so I ended up getting a job as a busboy in a restaurant, and also working for the ski hill as like a ticket checker. Never got to do that because the hill went on strike, and for probably the best, because I really enjoyed working in the restaurant. Like fucking loved it. Yeah. I got to meet a lot of different people. Like servers are older, people in the kitchen, people like work at the bar, the managers. People come from all the sorts of different towns, because Tremblant is like a transient town. A lot of people didn't grow up in Tremblant; they came to Tremblant.
Right.
Like a lot of destinations.
Well, that's kind of like, I mean, Whistler's kind of, well, it's not maybe like that as much anymore, but maybe it's still like that. A lot of Australians and like,
it's still very transient. I mean, transient to the point where in terms of employment and stuff, people can't, like, businesses can't even find people to work. Last summer that was like that.
So Tremblant was like that, and it was interesting, and got to meet a lot of people. Also built my self-confidence of eventually went from a busboy to a bartender, and now I like have to go talk to people. And it's like hard. I've like always felt scared to approach a table, and like whatever reason I gave myself at the time. And
you basically did exposure therapy to
yeah,
yourself without realizing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Exposure therapy without paying for the therapy.
Yeah.
And that really like opened my eyes, and I started snowboarding because I lived there, and the new friends I was making were all going skiing or snowboarding. It's like, okay, I'll get into it. And then eventually after the third winter, I was like, yeah, I'm moving out west. I want to ride some powder and some bigger mountains, and I want to get away from the crowds. And then I moved to Rossland, BC. I was and that was 14 years ago. And 14 years ago, we tried to find like a place to live online or a job, and we cannot. There was no like place to even look. Because I moved there with my buddy Seb, and one of the reason why we wanted to move out west is to get away from the crowds, and because we couldn't find any information for a place to live or a job, we're like, perfect, that's where we're going.
Right.
You're like, this is going to be quiet. Yeah, there's not going to be and at the time, and like 14 years ago, like, well, obviously Craigslist was a thing, and then like to search for jobs and stuff like that, I
But
guess
it
it
doesn't
wasn't.
mean it doesn't mean a small town of 3,000 to 4,000 people
Of
are using
course.
the internet, because over there's such a strong small community that everybody knows each other.
Good
Right.
point. Good point.
There's a
Good point.
there was a bulletin board downtown that people were using all the
Right.
time.
Wow.
Oh my
But
gosh.
that bulletin board wasn't put up online, so I was on
Right.
couch surfing, and met a guy from Trail, which is just down the road
Yes.
Yeah.
from Rosslyn. He's like, I'll go check the bulletin next week and I'll tell you what's available.
Huh.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'll take a
Wow.
picture of it. Maybe I'll email it to you or something.
Oh, no, send it to you on your flip phone.
Oh, I don't. That was like Hero. That was. I
That
don't
was
even know when
flip
that
phone
was.
era for sure.
No, that was the era.
Was
No,
it?
it was
Oh
at
my
the cusp of
God.
the sliding
Time's gone by
phones from the
fast.
flip
Yeah, I
phones. Yeah.
guess.
No, that they were
Yeah.
still there.
I guess that's true. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. That's crazy. That's crazy. So, okay. So you've kind of taken us up to Rossland, and then
Yeah.
how did you end up in Nelson then?
So for me, I moved for snowboarding, but also at the
Okay.
same time, I started to plant trees
Yes, I
Um,
read that. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
year prior to moving to Rosslyn. So, and basically I'd spent 2 winters in Rosslyn, and then I did a winter in Revelstoke, and then I moved to
Mhm.
Nelson. And the
Okay.
reason why I moved to Nelson was for snowboarding. And I had friends that I met in Rosslyn that were absolutely amazing for me, and we
Mhm.
vibed well. And so they moved to Nelson, and when I moved to Revelstoke, they weren't in there, and I didn't have that good of a season for me. It was not the same. And then so when I moved to Nelson, then like the band was back together, and
Mm.
we just had
Nelson's
so
awesome.
much fun
Yeah.
on the field together.
Yeah. That's wicked. So, okay. So there's too many questions. How did, because you do, and again, I just want to, just because our podcast is a lot about mental health, how does
Yeah.
mental health kind of fit into this whole picture? I mean, you kind of talked about it a little bit with, I guess, being shy and just maybe some social anxieties you might have had, and just the, working in a restaurant and kind of building up your maybe self-esteem or confidence that way. But kind of what led to the Men in Tubs calendar, and therefore, because you do talk about how mental health was
Yeah.
at the forefront of that, and you
Absolutely.
give to organizations as well. So it's
So
Yeah.
I'll give you the story.
okay. Give us the juice.
Question. I'll just give you the story. And interesting enough, I practice this story so often during the winter because I work at a cat skiing operation.
Yes.
And so there's a guest that spent 3 days and then 4 days, and then we have 2 different cats, so 14 guests in each. So I spend a day in each cat photographing them. So I get to meet people every 3 or 4 days, like all the
Wow.
time. And then they always ask me
Wow.
the same, and I always talk the same story. So the story I'm
It's
telling
the
you right now,
spiel. Yeah.
I could give the very short version, or I could give you the medium, or I can
Yeah.
give you the extended version.
Yeah.
How about give us whatever feels right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever, just yeah.
Yeah. So for me, everything really stopped in my track on March 28th, 2014. I fractured my left patella, which is the kneecap, snowboarding.
Yeah.
And then at this time in my life, I've been living in a cycle of tree planting in the spring, half the summer, and then finding other job that would lay me off at the end of the summer, early fall.
Right.
So I can get on EI/EI ski team.
Yeah.
And just spend my winter snowboarding and playing hockey and partying and doing whatever I wanted, basically. And I was just so driven for snowboarding. I was like, I didn't care about anything else but snowboarding. That was the only driving factor for me to work so I can spend my winters off. And then so March 28th, 2014, fractured my kneecap, and now I'm in bed. I can't really walk. Not well right away. And I basically had to give up my crew, or I chose to not go and do tree planting that season. Meaning I don't have any money. It's the end of the winter and it's time to go make money, and I can't do that right now. And then so I was in bed at my house, and one question I asked myself is, what am I going to do if I can't physically earn money? Because all the jobs I've ever had until that point were all physical work. And the answer to that question was, fuck, I don't know. Not only that, I was like, holy fuck, like this is real right now. Like I'm not making money, and not going to be making money for the next 2 months because I can't physically work right now. And I was like starting to spend my saving, and I only had $5,000 in a saving account. And then I was like, fuck, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was like, okay, like all the choices that I've made in my life up to this point led me to me being a broken leg in my bed. Right. And I was like, I'm broken right now. Like whatever I've been doing, it's not working.
Right.
And then at that point, I made without really knowing that's what I was doing, but I made a commitment to myself. The exact word I said, I'm going to learn how my brain works better so I can make better decisions moving forward.
Wow. Yeah.
And basically what that brought me to on the long lens spectrum is like personal development, without knowing that's where I decided I'm going to start heading towards.
Focusing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And just want an example how I started to go towards that is on Instagram. I started to unfollow friends that are doing whatever, and I start following like thought leaders that are I started to resonate with their message that they're showcasing online. And so like example, I started to watch like Gary V, because he's obviously spent a lot of money, he's really out there, and I just really started to listen to how he speaks, and he's got different approach, different angle to a lot of different things, and I was like, oh, this is interesting, like is that helping me to develop myself? And then so that summer I decided, I was like, okay, well, I can't work, so I'm going to start doing things I've never done before that I've always wanted to do. But for whatever reason, I've always given myself a reason not to do that. So I started to do spray painting, art. And within a few weeks, I started doing spray painting on like big piece of paper. And I was selling them to friends and family for like $5, $10, $15. But within a week or 2 weeks, I made $300.
Right.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You're like, there's something here.
I was just like, wow, this is crazy. I've never known how to do this. And within the week I've made money that I paid for the paint. But as soon as I was able to walk, I was out of the house.
Yeah.
So I never went back to making that. But at the same time, it's like, whoa, that's kind of cool and crazy. Like what else I don't know about myself that I could be doing, or I also decided to volunteer for a bunch of music festivals. Because I've always worked every summer, so I can not work in the winter. So I volunteered for 4 festivals in a row, and I had a van, and I was on medical EI, so I like the last stretch of like making a little bit of money. And during one of those festival at Base Goes, that's another story I can get into, can get really long, but basically I did acid for the first time in my life at base.
Wow.
I was always scared of just the word acid, scared the shit out of me before.
Yeah, me too.
And a friend in the morning, because I was volunteering, and then we're like in the morning, the festival starts like, hey, do you want to do acid? I was like, okay. It's like 9 a.m. And basically he took some, and I got really high, and I was like, oh shit, okay, I guess I'm on my own now. And by the time it's 7 p.m. I was just tired. I started to get a headache because I didn't fucking drink water all day, and I was just like so tired of like being high, and it takes a long time for this to like really calm down.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So I went and lay down in my van, and I had kind of a nap, and I was like, okay, I gotta go eat something. And then I grabbed my stuff, walked towards the food vendor, and on my way to the food vendor, I was walking by myself and had this deep feeling of feeling alone. And I was like, I just want to connect with someone. That's kind of what I said to myself. And I was like, okay, well, and for me, when I'm by myself, I can get, again, shy, and it's hard for me to introduce myself. And it's like, it needs a step up for me to get myself out there. I'm like 50-50 introvert, extrovert. So I was like, okay, well, I'll get a smoothie, and then I'll deal with that after. I got a smoothie, and everything I was drinking that weekend was pouring into a purple cup. So I put the smoothie in my purple cup, but it was too much. And I had like some left in the original smoothie cup. And then so I was sitting by the food vendor, and there was like a crowd of people walking by, and I was like, I'll just give it to the first person I see walking by. And then this girl was walking on the outside. I was like, hey, do you want some smoothie? And she's like, no, because I got dairy allergy. I was like, oh, but
Of course.
like, but she sat down and she said, hey, my name is Stephanie. I'm like, hey, I'm Jeremie, or Jeremie Jalapeno. She's like, oh, are you Daniel's friend? I was like, yeah, me and Daniel moved together in Nelson, the first place I lived at. And I was like, and Stephanie said, she's been talking to me about you. I'm like, who are you? Like, I've
Random.
never met her in my life. And I was like, this is crazy. And I was like kind of blown away. And then so we continue our conversation, and she asked me a really cool question. She said, what do you do best? And I was like, wow. I was like,
I don't think
wow,
anyone's ever asked me that. That is an interesting question.
absolutely. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And my mind was like, I get to ask someone what they do best. Like, it could be something that nobody knows. It could be something they're known for. It could be, I don't know, but it's something that they spend a lot of time doing. And I was like, that is a really cool question. And so I answered whatever came to mind first. And when I asked her, she said, I'm really good at connecting with people. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Because that was the only thing I really wanted when I was walking to get
Yeah.
And then in that moment, I started to believe in magic. And in other words, the power of manifestation.
Absolutely.
And then I was like, huh. I was just like, my mind just unlocked something else. I was like, allow me to like expand, start thinking bigger, what else I could manifest or what else I can do magic with. And then so that was really transformative for me, that period of time of like, I used to be like, I had to see it to believe it. I never believed in like, oh, I could do whatever or think about anything and it will happen.
Right.
And then so that moment really like opened up the cap above my head to like, there's unlimited possibilities.
Do you think if there hadn't been acid involved, I mean, who knows if that would have happened that way, yes or no, but just because as we know, and more studies that are coming out about, acid, about like psilocybin, about all those kinds of experiences, how they really do open up a part of your brain that maybe was closed.
I personally think it did something.
Yeah.
And also the atmosphere of a music festival that's kind of curated, to me, it seems that manifestation can be on another level because there isn't as much distraction or the same old. And when people go to those events, they're more open to a lot of things happening, or they're open to be there in the present moment. And I think it also helps, and that's what a lot of people say, like music festival like Shambhala or Base Ghost are transformative.
Absolutely.
Because it's a new environment. It's also meeting a lot of people, seeing things that shouldn't exist, and the type of clothes that people wear, or like art installations, or like things that are like, whoa, what is that? That's crazy. And it's just like
Burning Man, I guess, too, is on the list.
Absolutely. That place, but particularly Burning Man.
Have you been?
Once.
You have been? Okay, I haven't. That's a whole other conversation for sure. Hero, go. Sorry, I thought Hero was going to say something.
When it came to the conversation you had at the festival with Stephanie, did you have follow-up conversations with her after, or was that just a passing of time of you and her and that was it?
We spent a lot of time that evening just chatting and talking, and then I've hung out with her a few times in the years past, and I've told the story to her. That's like, because at that moment I didn't really necessarily know what was happening, or like I didn't know how to share as much as I know how to share now, and being comfortable in sharing my stories. And I definitely told her that in a way it's been like the catalyst for me to believe in magic.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, it's
Wow.
really
that's
cool.
lovely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
Continuing the story of that first summer of a broken kneecap, at the end of that string of festival, I basically needed to go to work because I had no money left.
Yeah.
And so I asked around with friends, and my buddy, he was a foreman for a timber frame company. And then so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll work as a labor for you, with you. And so building a place in Revelstoke, and then the following winter I moved to Weimar, which is just outside of Nelson. It's a small 300 people community. Turned out to be the worst winter that I've ever been part of, and also just starting to feel depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was experiencing a lot of depression that winter, and then when the winter stopped, my two buddies. Another story on the side is
All good.
when I broke. Well, I'm not going to tell the whole thing, but when I broke my kneecap, my buddy also broke his leg the same day.
Oh, wow.
Jeez. Were you together?
No.
Okay, because okay. Did you do it to each other?
I was in Golden in the snowboard competition. He was touring in Kootenai Pass.
Okay. Wow.
And then I fractured my kneecap, got sent to Cranbrook for surgery. And then when I messaged my other buddy, it's like, well, I messaged my buddy Logan and broke his leg. He's like, hey, I'm fucked my leg up. You're gonna have to take over my crew for the summer, because he was planting on my crew.
Whoa.
And I got a message back from our buddy Wiggles, and Wiggles like, Logan broke his leg. He's at Cranbrook Hospital. I was like, oh, this is crazy, because that's exactly where I'm at.
That's wow.
So eventually I got wheeled into his room. And I was like, Logan, let's fucking go. And he's like, what are you doing here?
Wow.
What the heck?
Yeah, so the best 5 days I've ever got in a hospital.
Yeah.
Hey, there's always meaning for something, no matter what. You can always turn it into the other side if you wish.
Oh man, there's so many. My buddy Gregor came and picked me up and with my car from Nelson, and without knowing that, he took a photo of himself. I'll get back to that later.
Okay.
In my little like point and shoot camera that was laying in my car. Okay. And so that winter I was living with Logan and Wiggles, and it was when they left, I was left to find another roommate, and I got this random guy from Vancouver, and it was just, I didn't have my friends anymore, and at the time I decided I was not going to plant trees anymore when I broke my kneecap, and then I decided I'm going to go back tree planting because my neighbor got a job local where basically I had to get picked up in town or drive 10 minutes. I was like, okay, I'll do that instead of leaving up north for like 3 months. It's like, oh, that sounds cool. And it was really hard for me physically. My leg wasn't strong, but because of it made my leg stronger. I wasn't making as much money, and mentally it was difficult because I spent a lot of time by myself, and I was experiencing a lot of depression from the winter still.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that were colliding and making my experience in life much more difficult. At the end of that, during that summer, I also started to work for a different company that do like forestry work, and I started to listen to Joe Rogan's podcast. And then I kept hearing about people going down to Peru and doing ayahuasca, and I was like, what is this thing? It's like, what is this crazy plant medicine? And I was like very intrigued by ayahuasca, and I felt that ayahuasca could be something that can help me.
Okay, was this before or after the acid experience?
That was afterward. I was like a year after.
Okay.
Yeah. And then and I decided I'm gonna go do an ayahuasca retreat in Peru the next winter.
Yeah.
And I had a friend who went that summer, and she came back with her partner at the time, stayed in my house, and she talked to me about her experience, and I was like, that's it. I'm for sure doing this. And so I booked the same ayahuasca retreat as her I didn't look any other place. For me, it's like my tendency is jumping 2 feet in and figure out as I go.
Sounds like it.
Right.
You're fearless in that sense.
I know that I can figure my shit out as I go. And also I have hard time and a lot of resistance to planning. I fucking hate planning. I just fucking hate planning. And right now I'm planning a trip to Norway and it's been hard for me, but I know it's going to be worth it.
Right.
That's hilarious.
And so at the end of that summer, I went back working with my buddy timber framing.
Mm-hmm.
So I can make more money so I can go to Peru. And I end up working in a job in Whistler at first, and then we went to Kiefer Lake Lodge and built Kiefer Lake Lodge, which is now the cat skiing lodge I work at.
Yeah, I was like, that's familiar. Yeah, cool.
I could tell by your hoodie as well, actually.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how I got to meet Jeff, the owner, and that's how I knew that this project was happening, that there's going to be a new cat skiing operation happening. And so I was living there for 2 months. And once the roof was on, we were basically over. I just did the frame. And then I started to venture to Ecuador and Peru for 2 months.
Wow.
There was a mythic party. So the place I went to ayahuasca is called Tierra Mítica. They no longer use ayahuasca, but they still help people figure their shit out.
What's the reason? Sorry, what's the reason that they don't use ayahuasca anymore?
They decided that ayahuasca is not for everybody in terms of taking substances. That's like, I get high as fuck on ayahuasca. Like,
I've
really
heard
hard.
the experiences of friends. Yeah, but that's continues. I kind of feel like I know where you're going with it, but
well, for me, like I've done drugs before, so I know how to like surrender to the experience. I'm comfortable or more comfortable, and then other people. But for people that have never done drugs in their life and they go do ayahuasca, they do it once and they don't. It's not like you get the knowledge and it's like my life changed because of one ceremony. It takes a lot of time, and then so a lot of people's like, I don't like that. I don't want to continue being fucked up like that. So they for that anyway. That's what I think we're saying. What I remember I've heard from them is like they wanted more people to have medicine without being all fucked up and saying no to so they still do a lot of personal development type scenarios and retreats and very powerful stuff. They just don't use ayahuasca anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Because it's a bit like I don't know, like a hero's journey. There's show up not really knowing, there's tribulation, there's overcoming the challenges.
Absolutely.
And that's how we grow, right? And so
well, and it's very sacred. It's a very sacred traditional medicine. Like I think there's some, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's some tribes and peoples out there that they feel like just people are abusing it in the wrong way too. They're not, kind of similar to what you're saying, maybe they're not using it for the medicinal properties and the tradition and the history that is behind it is like kind of just gone out the window, right? So
there's one thing in South America, and so people come from the Western world. Like I spent thousands of US to go there. So $2,000 US in Peru will last a long fucking time.
Yeah.
So there is a lot more retreat that are popping up everywhere without necessarily having the 25, 30 years experience in the shamanism world with the right settings and the right people and the right everything, right? So because the money's so good that it's like, well, you know, it would be stupid not to do that. I've done ayahuasca, whatever. So there's a lot more businesses that are starting because it's like so lucrative. So it's like there's lots of documentaries about people going there and to try ayahuasca, and some people just want to get high on ayahuasca.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the tripping. A lot of people that I met at music festivals like, oh, I've never tried that. I was like, it's not something that I want to try. The reason why I went there is because I thought that this can help me.
And so what was your experience then?
So before I went to Peru, there's my intention for the trip was to learn Spanish, to draw or paint, to learn how to draw or paint more, and to find myself. That's the reason why I took the trip. So 3 weeks prior to I was supposed to do a 6-day retreat. Uh, there was also a 12-day retreat, which was a full transformational retreat.
Wow.
And I thought that the 6-day retreat would be good enough for me because I'm not that bad.
No, I'm just like, yeah, okay.
I like
I
that.
just have a few little things
Not
to check
that bad.
on, and then
Yeah.
I'll be okay. So
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
12 will be for me. I think 6 days will be
It's
plenty. Right?
enough. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'll just clear out some of my shit. I don't need to clear all of it out.
I just have this one little thing and want a chicken, and then I'll be
Yeah.
fine, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's
Oh
how
my
life
gosh.
works.
And then so yeah, we'll get back to that in a minute. And then so there's a 3 weeks prior to the retreat, there was a mythic party. So the place is called Tierra Mítica, means mythic land in Spanish.
Okay.
So they're having a mythic party of 5 days where they build a building to get the walls painted from artists from all over the world to paint the story of grandmother ayahuasca on the walls of that building.
Wow.
So it was a
Cool.
5-day event. It was for free.
Wow.
There's like artists from Chile, Peru, France, Australia, Canada, like United States. It was very cool, and Netherlands. And so
Wow.
all these people that didn't know each other just showed up there to
Mm.
paint for 5 days. And
Oh.
so I decided to go there. I thought it would be a cool experience. And on day 3 or 5, the guy who runs the center, and his name is Mikis. He's a Greek guy who had a lot of challenges in his life and basically ended up studying shamanism for 26 years prior to the center at the time.
Wow.
Heavily involved with running ceremonies, and he basically moved his whole life to Peru to start doing that.
Wow.
The one morning he woke up, got everybody in this like big room, and he's starting to act a little crazy and starting to scream and yell about things that happened the night before. Some people took a dirt bike, and he's like, it's dangerous. We're so far out in the jungle. And then I can't remember what he was talking about.
Hmm.
But at the same time, when I was like, got triggered, I was like, these people are crazy. I was like, these people are crazy. And then he kept on yelling and yelling. I was like, these people are crazy. I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Mhm.
I'm fine the way I am. I don't need these people to help me. That's exactly what I told myself. I went and grabbed my bag. It's just a little backpack. I walked by the building where everybody was, and I can hear everything that's happening on the inside. And when I walk by the building, the energy is calm. I was like, oh, something changed here. And I was like, oh. And then I looked down this road. It's a 26-kilometer road in the middle of the jungle that's going to a highway that's out of town. And I look at the road and I was like, where the fuck am I going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 28 degrees outside. It's midday. It's so hot. I'm like, where am I going? I was like, I came all the way from Canada to figure my shit out, and I'm just fucking ready to walk down and just leave. And I was like,
Yeah.
when is that going to stop? And I was like, holy fuck. I've been running away from my problems my whole life.
Yeah. It gets noisy and you're like, no.
I was just like, at that moment, I was like, holy fuck.
Mhm.
What else about myself that I don't know that is so fucking obvious?
Right.
Because when I realized that I've been running from my problems my whole life, I was like, holy fuck. And then the other question was, when is that going to stop?
Mm.
And I was like, fuck. This is not, these people are not crazy. I don't want to face my shit.
Right.
And so I sat down and I listened to the rest of their conversation. And then I realized that there's a lot more I don't know about myself. And I don't think a 6-day retreat will be enough.
Right.
At that point, had you done ayahuasca?
No.
No. Okay. Okay.
Wow.
But I asked if I could do the 12-day retreat instead of 6-day.
Okay.
Which was happening directly after the mythic party, but they were full.
Okay.
Like, there's too many people that said no. And I was like, okay, well, I'm coming back anyway in 3 weeks, and I'll do my 6-day, and then we'll go from there, kind of deal. So I went around Peru, traveled for 3 weeks, and came back. And so I did one ayahuasca retreat after the mythic party with all the artists and a lot of the people. We went back to town. We went to a different center. We had a 1-night ayahuasca ceremony. But I can't say that I really retained something that was profound from that experience. I think it was just like an introduction to shamanism and circles and ceremony and ayahuasca itself.
Right.
But I can't recall anything that's like profound that like came with me from that first ceremony. I guess I was just like couldn't wait to see how am I gonna trip, because I like to trip and party, and I was like yeah, but you know, it was like
Right.
kind of get it out of the way. And then so I came back 3 weeks later, and when I showed up, my assumption is that they needed money, so they offered me, and because usually one of the retreats like 10 to 12 people, and we were only 4 people showing up.
Okay.
And they offer everybody if we wanted to do a 12-day retreat and pay the difference
Extra.
Right.
And I was like, yes, I definitely want to do that. And there's one more guy from the UK that decided he wanted to, but he quit after one ceremony.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And then there's a couple from the States where the guy had done a mythic party of 12-day in the mythic voyage in the past of 12-day, and he brought his new partner with him, and he only wanted to do 6-day, and so that she quit after 1 or 2 ceremonies. And then so basically I was left to make a decision, well, before everybody quit, to do a 12-day without having the support of a group around me, like a circle. And I decided yes. And so that evening, having conversation with Mikas before any ceremonies, anything, the way I can interpret what he was trying to do is he was asking me a lot of questions to identify my belief system, so he can wear it and really find triggers within me based on a paradox of belief.
Right.
Because he says that when we have 2 beliefs that contradict each other, we get triggered, we get out of control, and we kind of like lose it in a way. And then so he's trying to find paradox of belief within me. And then so he's asking me a bunch of questions about my family. And then at one point he asked a question about my dad, and he said, "Is your dad a loser?" But he said, like, "Is your dad a loser?" And I was like, my hand became a fist instantly, and I rarely go to anger.
Yeah.
And
You're like, how fucking dare you? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like fuck. And I was like, and I instantly put my head down because I couldn't say, I wanted to tell him to fuck off, but I couldn't. And I was like, what if he is right that I believe my dad's a loser? I just never admitted it to myself. That was part of me. Because on one side, my dad always provided everything for me. And then on the other side, he's not living a life that's inspiring for me. I don't want to live the same life he's living.
Wow. Can I ever relate to that? Yeah.
And when he asked me that, I was confronted, brought to the surface, something that's like within me. And I was like, fuck. And I was like, fuck, I think I don't want to say yes because I love my dad and I don't want to paint shot. And then I was so like, I put my head down and I was like, it felt like nothing else mattered. And it was just that. And I was like, holy fuck. And I said yes to him. And he said, I didn't hear you. Is your dad a loser? And he made me repeat it louder and louder. And I was like, fuck. Every time I kept saying fuck, I couldn't stop saying fuck. And then it's just so he wanted to make sure that I realize that's part of me right now. But here's the beautiful thing about awareness. If I'm aware of something that I don't like, I have the power to change it. If I am aware of something that I made a mistake, then I have the power to change it. And that's the power in knowing awareness and seeing that it's my fault and taking responsibility for everything that happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And then so that was one of the biggest takeaway I got from that whole retreat, is before I did ayahuasca with Jeremie. The one prior to that was to realize that I've been running away from my problems my whole life.
Yeah.
And then third takeaway that I came back with that really helped me make big changes in my life was to go towards my fears and resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the past, that for me was, oh, I'm scared, I'm going to go away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have resistance towards that, I don't like it, I'm going to stop doing that.
Yeah, because does it feel good?
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. But so knowing that my fear and resistance only means that there's something there of value. There is something there that is important. There's something there that's valuable for me. That's
Mhm.
all it means. So using my body as a compass. So when I get scared to go talk to a girl I find pretty, but in the past I would fucking never approach her.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that shows up again in my life. I'm like, it just means that this is meaningful for me. That's it.
Yep.
It's a
That's
good
it.
way of putting it.
It means you care. It means you want it, that it means something to you.
Yeah, exactly. And then so knowing that because I went from a 6-day retreat to a 12-day retreat, I had to cancel flights and I had to rebook flights to go to Canada. And my original goal was to go to ayahuasca retreat and then fly directly to Costa Rica to go to Envision Music Festival.
I've never even heard of that one. Yeah.
Really cool. It's like a in a different way, but like a Shambhala of Costa
Yeah.
Rica.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
And I had a lot of friends from Nelson going there. And because of that, I had to cancel that too. I had to make a choice of whether I go to the party with my friends is going to be on the beach in Costa Rica. It's going to be fucking cool. Or do I stay here to figure my shit out?
Right.
Yeah.
That was a buy-in. I needed to make, a decision that I made to make. And then so canceling my flight, rebooking flights, I came back to Canada and I thought the $2,000 I'm gonna have is now gone.
Right. Yeah.
And before I left Canada, because I was gone for 2 months, I moved out of my house. I sold my car.
Oh gosh.
And then I just like, I'm going to do this. Like I'll figure the shit out when I come back.
Yeah.
But now I'm coming back to Canada and I have money,
Nothing.
no place to live, no car to get around. I don't even have a job to go to. And I was like, holy fuck, like I thought ayahuasca fucked me up. I was so and then I came back to Canada. And in order for me to prove to myself what I learned there, the 3 big takeaways, that it was true, the best question I can ask myself was, what am I the most afraid to do in my life right now?
Right.
Because if I want to live a meaningful life and have something of value, that would be the question that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah.
And then what came up is going back to school, because I hated school. I was so not interested in school and never inspired by school. And I was like, I don't want to fucking go to school.
Yep.
And
That's
then
me.
I was like, okay, if I go to school, what do I go to school for? And I was like, this little voice, like photography. I was like,
Right.
all right, that's what I'm fucking doing.
Hmm.
And then so that's what I did.
And then when was this? Like, was this late 2016, 17? Timelining it.
2016, I started photography school in October of 2016.
Okay.
And then the other thing I told myself is I'm going to Burning Man before I go to photo school.
Okay. Get it out. Just get it all out before settling.
Because I also wanted to use the power of manifestation and really see if it works outside of the festivals and the kind of stuff like that.
Right.
And then the way it works, it's with the language we use, the language that I use for making that happen. If someone was asking, oh, what are you doing this summer? I'm like, oh, I would like to go to Burning Man. I'm thinking about going to Burning Man. Yeah. It's not going to work. No. The way to speak about it is I am going to Burning Man. That's it. Even though I don't have the money, school is starting the same date. Like the first school I picked was starting the same date as Burning Man start as the start of school. And I was like, I don't know how that's going to happen, but if I doubt it, that's what the universe is going to receive.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So I was like taking a deep breath every time. I was like, cause I don't fucking know how to make this happen. And I don't have tickets. I don't how do I get there? And I was like, I am going to Burning Man. And I kept saying it, and reinforcing the idea. Eventually, my buddy had 2 tickets to Champlain and it was sold out. And he's like, my buddy bailed. I have 2 tickets. Like, you know someone that wants to buy one? I was like, no, but you should put it online if you can trade 2 Champlain ticket for 2 Burning Man ticket, and I can get you another Champlain ticket. He did that, and then this guy found a guy who wanted to do the trade. So we got Burning Man tickets.
That's crazy.
Wow.
And then at Champlain, I found a crew that was going to Burning Man from Fernie, and I was like, I'm tagging along with these guys, and I just went.
Yeah.
But prior to that, my original idea was to pick a city that I like, that I want to move there.
Yeah.
And then so I was picking a place in Victoria, and then my friend's like, who are the teacher? What are they going to teach you? I was like, I don't know. I don't care. And I was like, well, maybe if I'm spending that much money, I should check into it a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I realized that they weren't necessarily going to help me out. And I found a different school in Kelowna that was starting a month later. And I was like, oh, look at that. I can go to Burning Man.
Priorities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So went to photo school. And then eventually I moved to one place in Kelowna, and then I moved out to a second place. And while I moved to the second place, I was looking at my old camera and my little point and shoot camera. Like, oh, I don't need this camera anymore, but I'm going to keep the memory card.
Yep.
So I grabbed the memory card, put it on my computer, see what's on it. And then I was
Yeah.
like, oh, what is this? And I was like, what the hell is this photo? My buddy Gregor, when he grabbed my car, found the point and shoot. When I said he took a photo of himself, he took a photo of his fucking pubes.
Ah.
And I was like, gross.
It wasn't even, was it just the pubes? It wasn't even the penis?
You just like pull his pants kind of.
Oh,
like,
okay.
it's just the pubes. Just to make a joke, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, this
No
is
dick pic.
hilarious. I'll send it back to him. So I sent him that photo. And he's like, gross. And he sent me a photo of him naked in a clawfoot bathtub.
Now it was just going, oh.
Where his chin was sitting on the top of the bathtub, and he's kind of like, his back was on top. So he's kind of on his belly on the water. And you can kind of see a little bit of his butt crack in the back. And I was like, that is fucking hilarious. And I was in photo school at the time, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to photograph dudes in tubs. I'm making a calendar, and I'm like, I was so fucking jacked on that. I was like, because it's too funny. I was like, I'm doing this. And
Wow.
That is totally not how I thought how it came about at all.
That is amazing.
It's like not what I was. Okay, continue. Sorry. Yes.
But that was the spark, the idea of the calendar itself, right?
Yeah.
So 3 years after photo school, I have now enough camera gear, and I followed this girl into an MLM, multi-level marketing company, because I was really attracted to her, and I thought that if I do whatever she does, I could just spend more time with her. And I was like, realized that she doesn't care about me, and I was like, woke up one day, I was like, what the fuck am I doing this? I have no desire to be in this thing.
Yeah.
And then so I quit that, and at the time I hired a life coach. I was working with a life coach named David Stegman, really great guy. And I realized that I needed to quit this job in order to do the calendar.
Okay. Yeah.
And if I don't do the calendar now, the calendar seasons will pass by and I won't have the chance to do it. So I was like, I got to do this now, because if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. And I really want to see that happen. So got on my horse and started doing calendar. Never done that before. I was really scared. I didn't even know how to plan for that, because I hate planning. And then so the help of David really helped me out, and have the confidence to do that and have someone to like bounce ideas back to, and have accountability was a big one. And then so I put a calendar together, and while I was photographing some of the guys in there, 2 brothers, one of the guys like, why don't you raise some money for charity? I was like, that's a great idea. And I was like, I've been part of, I've also went to the Mankind Project initiation weekend called the New Warrior Training. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Mankind Project.
Only because of doing some research on yourself, but if you want to explain what it is. Yeah.
So the Mankind Project's an organization that help men to learn about feelings and emotions, how to share that, help to heal past trauma with trained facilitators. And they have weekly circles in different cities, and they have this thing called the New Warrior Training.
Mm-hmm.
So I completed the new warrior training, and were we going pretty far on time here, or what do you guys?
Yeah, we've got few
I'm
more
almost okay,
little.
another 5 minutes. I'll probably be
All
done.
good. It's all good.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah. And then so I decided I'm going to raise some money for the Mankind Project, and that's kind of how it started to merge
Yeah.
photography with mental health initiatives. And I created a show in Nelson, and because of the initiation week in the Mankind Project, I found one of my purpose is to create a world of vulnerability and connection through
Yes.
artistic human experiences, and I attached that mission to the to my calendar, the Men in Tabs Project.
Mm.
And then I created a show in Nelson where I invited some speakers. Like one guy used to be a addiction recovery coach, talked about his story with cocaine and alcohol and how he turned that around, and also had a counselor, a sex educator, talk about her story to become that.
Mm.
And for me, I decided I'm going to talk about something that I held so much shame with for 10 years that I never talked to anyone about.
I think I watched that video.
Yeah.
I did. Well, I did watch that video. Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
It was
We
great.
watched it.
Yeah.
It was very, 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 very profound.
And so I the title of my talk was Secret of a Loser,
Mm-hmm.
the shame I carry. And because of the men's circle and the ayahuasca and the trajectory that I was on, I was able to open up about talking about having herpes.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked on stage in front of all like 200 people, and all these people didn't know about me, and I just kind of broke the silence on stage.
Yeah, that's huge though. Talk about like just and you also at the time, I think you took your shirt off too, and you were just like, this is me, and wrote herpes, I think, wasn't it on your chest, right?
Yeah.
Talk about vulnerable. I mean, that's absolutely.
And the reason why I was able to do that on stage is because I started to talk about it at the circle. Like the first time I ever went to a circle, the first question that was going around to share was, tell us one thing you don't want to know about you to us. And I was like, fuck, I know this is what I need to talk about if I continue to follow my compass of things that I'm afraid to talk about or resistant. That was the biggest shiny one.
Yeah.
Like I want to talk about it. And I knew that's the one that I should talk about. So the first time I said that I had herpes to the group, it took me like 5 minutes of crying, and like words wouldn't come out. I was trying and it wouldn't fucking move. And over multiple like circles over the years, that kept coming up. I kept talking about it. But the more I talk about it, the more power I have over it. So shame needs secrecy in order to stay strong within us.
Yes.
That's from Brene Brown. So I've ended up reading a lot of Brene Brown, watching a lot of her content because it was so related to me and vulnerability and shame and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, that's how I created the first show, and then the Men in Tabs, and now it's been 4 years, and I've done 3 shows because in 1 year with COVID I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, so do you try to do a show every year?
Yeah, I have. I've done another one this year. Yeah,
sweet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When is the one this year?
It's in the fall, so kind of
okay.
Under release, basically.
Yeah, nice. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
So it sounds to me like, well, there's so many takeaways from this dialogue, because number one, I think that just rings true is like, you don't seem to be afraid to just take chances and take risks, which I think a lot of people are adverse to that, perhaps, which is quite the leg up for you for sure, which is awesome. And just manifestations again, man, like, can't say enough about that, but that's a huge takeaway for me as well. I don't know, Hero, if you want to.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything that you speak to is very clear in terms of your intention, and also almost in like intentional, like you have a sense of being guided and at the same time without any guidance. That's kind of a paradox that also is so beautiful in the way that it's turned out to work for your life and how you've ended up to where you were. Because what you did wasn't careless. There is such a thing as being careless and misguided. You almost had kind of the flip side where you were guided, but you hadn't, and you didn't really know what direction you were going in. You just said, I know where I want to go in the big picture, but I don't know what the process will look like. And I think that's part of what life is about, is really enjoying the process and knowing that wherever you're meant to be ending up is where you'll end up. But the further Rachel's point, we tend to let our anxiety or apprehension, our societal stigmas, or our sense of approval within ourselves that's been kind of passed down to us from our parents, our friends, our society, where we don't really get the ability to, we don't think we have the ability to really explore those endeavors. So the fact that you kind of said, yeah, you know what, fuck it, and I don't know how I'm going to end up. I just know that I need to get there and do it. I think it's that action as opposed to motivation, and having action first and then letting the motivation come from there. You kind of have the motivation and the action, and you let them come at the same time. And I find a lot of us tend to decompartmentalize action and motivation and kind of think we need to have one to have the other. And you're saying, no, I had both and I'm doing it, even if I don't know where the result's going to land. And that's pretty amazing.
The other thing one thing I thought was interesting is the story about initially when you hurt your knee and you were in bed. What I found interesting, maybe you just left this out, but you didn't say, oh God, it just made me go into this depressive like tailspin. Like you very quickly flipped it to like look at the positive.
Yeah,
which is not easy to do, my friend.
No, you found like, you did resilience.
Something I didn't mention while I broke my kneecap, I was talking to my buddy Kalen. I was like, oh man, that sucks. I was like, does it? Like, this could be the best thing ever happened to me if I choose to.
Right.
I was telling him that. I was like, dude, I'll make this the best thing ever happens to me. That was the mentality I went in, even though it sucked for a long time. But that's something that I was telling myself, I forgot to mention. And there's two more things that came up to me when you were speaking, Hero. When I went to one of those festivals during that summer at Shambhala, my mom was getting surgery on her head to remove a mass in Quebec. And I could not go because I couldn't mentally go. I just wasn't able to go. And I decided I'm not going to be there to be by her side. And because I decided I want to go to Shambhala. And during that Shambhala one morning, I partied a lot. I didn't sleep for 5 days. But one of those morning, I was at the beach stage by myself, and I came up with a realization that it's okay to live a life of finding inner peace.
Right.
Like I gave myself permission to do that, but I was saying in a way that it's okay for other people to do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I guess I allow myself to find inner peace. And another big takeaway piece that I forgot to mention is when I decided to go to Peru to do ayahuasca, it's because I felt there was something inside of me that was blocking me from becoming who I wanted to become. I felt like in life, I was like, I want to take that next step, but I feel I cannot get off the fucking start gate. And I felt that ayahuasca can help me to figure my shit out.
Right.
Yeah. Because it was within me and it wasn't outside sources that it was blocking me from whatever.
No, you were your
most
own
of the time
container.
that's the case. Well, that is I want to say majority of the times that is exactly it. It's we're blocking ourselves. It's not something external. It's most of the time it's internal. So it's man.
One of my quote that so when people buy a calendar online, I always send like a postcard with it and I write a couple quotes on the back of it. And one of the quotes I've been writing to everybody buy a calendar online is all limits are self-imposed by Icarus. I don't know how to say it. But
yeah. No, that's very powerful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I hope it's not too late for us to put this out and have people. I mean, I know it's like already almost April to buy your calendar, but it's not even about people. It's not even about like the days in the calendar.
I'm not doing this to sell more calendars. It's to share my story.
Exactly.
And if I can inspire one person to make some changes in their life for the best possible way, that means I could potentially in the future enjoy that person on a greater sense of themselves. It's kind of
that's beautiful.
like I'm not making, like I sell calendars, but I'm not getting paid. I'm not making money with the calendar. I've been doing this for 4 years. I'm figuring out ways to make it happen because I want to continue to do it. But it's not like I'm trying to sell calendars to make money for me. Like I'm not making money with it right now. But
Right.
at the same time, I can inspire other people to make better changes in their life. That means I just get to enjoy the
Right.
repercussion of that. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I mean, again, just for shits and giggles, like I've got a really hot ass. So if you want another photograph subject to take photos of, and I love photography, I do photography myself actually. Feel welcome to. I'm happy to help bring some awareness through great
Where are you
asses.
located, Hero?
I'm in Vancouver.
In Vancouver. I'll be
Yeah.
in Vancouver on April 2nd. What are you guys doing on April 2nd? What is it?
That's a
I-
Sunday, so I'm working.
I don't
but
live in hey, I live in Vernon.
yeah,
Do you?
Rachel's closer to you.
Yeah, I'm in
Oh.
Vernon. I'm not in Vancouver. Yeah, we live much closer to each other. But yeah, that's funny. Well, I'll wear a mustache.
So here's the thing. Next year, I'm doing a calendar half men in tubs and half women on thrones.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
I love that.
Because I've been asked so many times, when are you going to do a women in tubs calendar? I was like, I'm not going to do that because for me, it goes straight to sexuality and it's
Yeah,
not
it does.
behind the calendar.
Yeah. 100%.
So
Yeah.
women on thrones.
I
It's
love
like,
that.
It's like girls don't poop story, right?
Yeah, I right.
Yeah.
Oh my
Well, yeah, that's
God.
okay. Yeah, when you said throne, I was wondering because that's
I
where
was-
my mind went.
That's where my mind went too.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll straddle that throne. Like,
Yeah.
like there's no
Yeah.
tomorrow. I'll,
Yeah,
spread
absolutely.
eagle. Like, come on.
Yeah.
What do we meet in the middle with everybody and we do a shoot with a women in throne and men in tubs at the same time.
Oh my God.
That would be great.
Don't tease me because I would love
Rachel
that.
and I in a shoot together, that would actually be really, really like
Well, I don't know if we
dynamic.
get together, but like,
Well, be in the same image.
oh my God.
Oh
that
yeah,
would-
you could put the images together even if
That's
they were
true.
separate.
That's true. Oh my God, that would be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, if you really want to see me freaked out, you can put me into like a cold plunge because I'm very not into like highly cold tubs, but that would
Either
be really
that or show
interesting.
him some boobs and it'll freak him out. One or the other.
Showing me a pair of tits or breasts, I guess I should say to be politically correct, and putting me in an ice bath, I would be literally
you would be
I would lose
catatonic.
consciousness. I
Yeah,
would lose
I know.
consciousness. I'm terrified of the female anatomy. Period. That's the kind of gay I am. Some gays love breasts and stuff. I am
God.
terrified. You show it to me, you flash me, I'm going to run the other way. So that's perfect.
Oh my gosh. On that
Well,
note.
think of a theme or something, because all my photo shoots are a different theme and location, and I have a fiberglass clawfoot tub that I can bring anywhere.
Oh, that's so
cool.
cool.
So it's not a cast iron that you see in the photos. So if you see
Right.
a tub by a waterfall, like how the fuck did he bring a tub? of
Yeah,
wood?
yeah.
It's a real tub. It's just not what you think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Who's
can
the-
definitely brainstorm for sure.
Yeah, one of my favorites is with I guess it's a lake behind and a mountain range, and the person's holding, was that you holding an image or no, a painting of
that's
the
me.
same. That's you. Okay, that's a gorgeous shot.
That's the
Yeah.
as soon as COVID happened, I was at home. I was like, I need to do something. And my birthday's on April 6th. And then so late
Okay.
March, that's when I was like, I just got to go do a photo shoot. And I'm going to go to my favorite place in BC. And I went and did a photo shoot myself. It was a bit of a shit show because the storm I rolled in broke my light. And then I was freezing. And then the sun came back out. I was like, I guess I'm going back. And it worked out.
And you were by yourself?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
It's
Incredible.
beautiful.
Yeah. Every photo shoot has a story behind him. I could talk about them. But,
It does. It does. I definitely understand that. I mean, and also just as far as the photography thing, I definitely understand that. I did have a little stint of photography in my high school years and kind of post-secondary. And I got accepted to the Parsons School for Design in New York for photography. I didn't go, long story short. However, I have a deep appreciation for photography and visual arts. And so it's really wonderful to hear the mental health component of how you brought that into your life and how you also blended the mental health part with your art and your photography. I think it's a beautiful marriage. So I think it's going to continue inspiring a lot of people and only continue to take shape and develop as it grows. So I think that's great, and I commend you for doing that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And one thing I'd like to mention, growing up, I might have had ideas of like, hey, photography is cool, but I would shut down that idea so quickly because self-sabotage of being a loser is not allowed to do cool shit that he wants.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so I'd be like, oh, there's too many photographers. It's too competitive. I don't have enough money. I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm not even gonna fucking try.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
but there's
that's
only one of you.
Sabotage for
Right.
sure.
And
Yeah.
that's what loser does. They sabotage themselves, and that's what I
Yep.
did to myself, but I didn't know that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's stay in touch, Jeremie. Absolutely.
I think we
And
can have a lot of conversation, even just meet in person. That'd be really cool.
oh,
That'd be great.
absolutely. Yeah. No, folks, just stay tuned for those photos because I think that's really awesome. Look, and you don't even know what I'm like sitting on my chair already, like I'm sitting on a
Just
toilet with my legs. Like I don't know what I'm doing. Also, we're yoga teachers, so that's something else so I'm always moving and stretching and doing things like that. But
I think yoga could be cool.
I could sit on a toilet seat in the lotus position. Anyway.
There's gonna be more than one position if we do a photo shoot.
This is true. This is true. So how would you like folks to kind of to leave them with how to follow you? And we'll put it in the show notes and stuff like that too. But can they reach out to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sweet.
I'm always welcome to have conversation with new people. And one thing I know is we're always one relationship away from changing our life completely.
That's a really good ending, actually.
So
I like that. Yeah.
Meeting new people like we've never met before, and I think it's always cool. It opens doors and inspires me, and so yeah, talk to people.
Yeah. Well said. Absolutely. Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for your time. Deeply appreciated. You're in Nelson right now, are you? Or are you not?
I flew to see my parents kind of last minute, so I'm in Quebec right now.
Oh, amazing. Wow.
Wait a second. What time is it there? 11?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Well, thank you for spending your later evening with us.
I was like, okay. I was like, oh, if I'm flying there, and I was like, look at my calendar, and I was like, oh shit, this podcast, like, I can make that happen. I'll be, and like, I don't want to reschedule. I want to, have a conversation with you guys and get to meet you, and yeah. So it's
okay. We appreciate even more.
It warms my heart to be on what you guys created, and it's hard work, and it's a lot of like invincible progress of doing something like this for a long time.
It is. It is very much very well.
It's a good way of putting it, actually.
Yeah. I just learned that recently with this guy, and I think it's called Ed Violet. You guys might know him.
No.
Anyway.
No.
He's one of those guys I follow on Instagram who's got a lot of going on. He's like a life coach for high athlete and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Invincible progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
I just want to say before we spend really appreciate all you guys' hard work. You're really kind, and I'm inspired for doing more things and get to meet you guys and
in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, definitely appreciate that a lot. And from a creator to another creator, thank you for sharing that. And we are here to support and continue supporting you in all your endeavors. And this is definitely just the beginning of a dialogue that'll continue for sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
I think we're all creators, by the way.
I agree. So
I agree. You mean as a human collective or just the three of us? I'm just
kidding. Humans in general.
Humans, yes.
Yeah. Yes.
There's another thing that I love is like when we create, we're basically reenacting the act of God, of the creator.
Yeah. Love it.
It's true. Yeah.
Love it.
Oh my. I don't even know. I hit a wall, I think, too. I need to eat some food. Thank you so much for all your time, and we'll be in touch, and stay safe and have fun in Quebec while you're there.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.